Welcome back to this week's episode of Loving Life. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who reached out last week and asked how Rosie was. Obviously, she was sick during last week's episode and I had to clean up twice, actually, and continue the next day. Now, she has had to have a little operation. I've just actually uploaded it onto my Instagram stories. So if you want to go and check that out, then head on over to my Instagram page. But she's fine. Thank you all so much for your concern. Thank you also for the amount of people that have reached out to say that last week's episode was really helpful to them. I haven't heard from Kelly yet, so I'm guessing Kelly hasn't heard it because I know that she'll message me when she's heard it. But yeah, thank you to everyone. I'm so glad that it's resonated. Like whatever situation you've got going on in your life right now, it's really hard to try and please everybody. So just go, if you haven't listened to last week's yet, go and listen now. I've just had a look at the place with the highest amount of downloads from last week, and Bristol's actually been knocked off the top spot. The place with the highest amount of downloads from last week was Merced in California. So, oh my God, thank you so much, guys. The amount of downloads in that one, I don't know if that's a city, a town, wherever you are, I'm guessing people have shared it there because loads of people have downloaded it there, and I'm so grateful. So thank you so much. Bristol was second, and then Calgary was third. So thank you to all of you for clearly sharing that episode. Now, have you ever noticed how you have those periods in your life where everything just feels slightly harder than it should? You are overthinking small decisions. You feel a little bit restless, unsettled, even when nothing is technically wrong. Often we try to fix this by being more productive, being more positive, being more disciplined. And sometimes it isn't actually a mindset issue. Sometimes the real issue is actually something much, I say simpler, but it's that your system doesn't feel safe enough to relax. So that feeling of safety, why is it that sometimes we don't just feel safe to just be? It's sometimes actually an energy issue. So what I'm talking about here is the root chakra. You might have heard me talking about the chakras before. And you don't need to know about the chakras really, but what you do need to know is how you feel. So the root chakra is the part of us, the energetic part of us that governs safety, stability, and our sense that life is basically okay. When I say safety, I don't just mean physical safety. I also mean emotional safety. So that feeling that you don't have to be on guard all the time. That underlying sense that you are supported, that you can relax into life a little. For many of us, that feeling of safety starts forming in early childhood, and our nervous system learns about the world through our earliest experiences. So when our needs are met, when we're a child, when we're comforted, when we're soothed, when we're responded to, our system learns that the world is safe and I'm supported. But when those needs aren't consistently met, even in small ways, the nervous system can learn something different. It learns to stay a little bit more alert. It learns to watch out. Okay, so even those experiences, like the small experiences, like not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not being comforted or reassured, can shape that inner sense of safety. And of course, I'm saying, in childhood, but of course, there are things later on in life that makes us feel not seen, not heard, not reassured. And that's the interesting thing, is that this pattern can stay with us long into adulthood, whenever it formed, and sometimes we don't even realise it. So often when this happens, we can experience a blockage in that energetic center, which is the chakra. We can experience a block in the energy there, so in the root. So what does this actually look like in real life? So you might find it showing up in small ways, like having to check things repeatedly. So, for example, reading an email 3 or 4 times before sending it because you're worried that you've missed something. You might find it showing up in Sunday evening anxiety, so feeling that sense of dread or tightness on Sunday evenings, even if your week ahead isn't actually that bad. You might find yourself having difficulty relaxing. So sitting down to relax, but your brain immediately starts listing all the things that you should, inverted commas, be doing. You might find money, how can I say, hyper awareness. So what I mean by that is opening your banking app more than you should, more than you need to, even when you already roughly know what's in there. You constantly find yourself going back and checking. You might find yourself feeling rushed even when you're not, so moving through the day with a slight sense of urgency, like you are always catching up. You might find yourself over preparing for things, so mentally rehearsing conversations or meetings long before they happen. And you might also notice minor problems feeling bigger than they are. So just small things, feeling like they are ruining your life, feeling like you can't cope with it. It's almost like with all these things, it's almost like your system is quietly scanning for problems before they've even appeared. That is what I mean by safety. Okay, you are scanning for problems, scanning to see where you might need to be on guard. There's also some physical symptoms that you might notice as well. So things like tight hips or lower back tension are often associated with a blockage in the energy of the root chakra. You might find that you are clenching your jaw without realizing, and this is often a feeling of lack of safety. You might find you are shallow breathing when you're concentrating. You might find that you're struggling to fully switch off at night, or that you are sleeping but maybe waking up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning and not being able to go back to sleep again because your mind is switched on straight away, probably worrying about what's coming up for the rest of the day, and feeling restless even when you try to sit still. Our nervous system, when it doesn't feel completely safe, the body often holds a level of tension, like that energy. When you're feeling worried, feeling anxious, that energy has to go somewhere. So we often find it in those areas. So if you recognize yourself in some of those examples, do not worry, you are not alone. The good news is that when you start to feel safer in yourself and in your surroundings, you might notice that making decisions is easier, and you do this without spiraling and overthinking. In fact, somebody reached out to me yesterday, a new Reiki client. She is a massive overthinker and she calls herself a stress head, and it just made me chuckle because, a lot of us are like that. A lot of us do stress about everything, and it's because, we are trying to make ourselves feel safe. We are preparing for the worst in a weird way because it makes us feel safe. It's the predictability that we need to feel safe, if that makes sense. Where was I? So when your root chakra energy is flowing better, then you might notice that you are able to leave work behind at the end of the day. You can handle unexpected problems without feeling completely thrown off, trusting that you'll figure things out as you go. feeling safe to figure things out as you go. You might notice that you feel present when you are with family instead of mentally planning ahead, planning for tomorrow, planning for that meeting, planning how you are going to budget for the month. And you might also feel able to sit down and actually relax without feeling guilty. But of course, life still has its challenges, but your system trusts that you can handle them. So that is why it's so important that we put thought and energy into making ourselves feel safe. So here's something I want you to try if anything in this has resonated. So you can spend 5 minutes doing something that signals stability to your nervous system. So that could be stepping outside and noticing your surroundings. Even if you just, step out in the back garden, take a look up at the trees or the stars in the sky, even the clouds in the sky, being present. Taking a slow walk without your phone, again, being present. Sitting down with a warm drink and deliberately slowing your breathing. Again, being present. But actually, what you can do with your breathing, if you can just spend a minute or two, a couple of times a day, breathing in, like counting in as you breathe. So breathing in for 5 seconds and then out for 5 seconds. If you do that 6 times, then for 1 minute, you've controlled your breathing, and you will be amazed what that does to your nervous system. So if you can do that a couple of times a day, that's going to make a big difference to feeling safe. Safety in your nervous system. Another thing you can do to help yourself feel safe, to help that feeling of safety in your system, is to tidy one small area of your space. So whether that is a cupboard or your bedside cabinet, these tiny actions tell your system that it's safe enough to pause. So as I said, this is all linked and connected to the root chakra, which that sits at the base of the spine. It's not a physical thing that you can see. It's an energetic center. Like I said, it's associated with grounding, stability, feeling supported in the world. And when that energy is nurtured, everything else just becomes a little bit steadier. So just spend some time this next week doing those things, doing those actions, taking a slow walk, all those things I just listed. I'm not going to go through them and list them again. That's just silly. So as we close today, if life has been slightly harder lately, and so instead of asking what's wrong with me, I want you to try asking, do I feel safe enough to relax? If the answer is no, for whatever reason, that's when you go back and do one of those things. Because when that settles, everything starts to feel lighter. So in the Inner Circle membership, we explore all of these emotional layers, these energetic centers, one at a time. So you're not trying to change everything in your life all at once. The doors will be opening again very soon. And if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about it, I'd love you to click the link in the show notes. And when the doors open, you will be the first to hear about it and to find out what it's all about. Okay, so I'm going to be continuing this theme, looking at the different energy centers. Next week, we will be looking at the energy center connected to joy, creativity, and emotional flow, and why so many of us lose touch with that part of ourselves. And if you have enjoyed this episode, can I please ask you to share it with somebody who you feel would resonate with this. If you've had a chat with a girlfriend recently who says she overthinks everything, wishes that life just felt a little bit calmer, share this episode with her. I'm sure she would appreciate it, and I certainly would. It would help me out massively. Thank you so much, as always, for coming back. Please do pop over and leave me a review if you listen on Apple. And I'll see you next week. Sending you so much love. Bye.